In the name of my ancestors, peace forever and always. Welcome to another edition of the Reality's Temple on Earth. Of course, I am the host or the gatekeeper of this internet ministry. On YouTube, I am known as the mighty AngelsnupnupSEVEN, your brother and hopefully your friend, Taalik Ibn'rad. I hope you enjoy the video that follows this introduction. Again, peace forever and always, and respect you.
I'll be there. Went to #1. The Jackson 5 were born. When I talked with Brother Michael, as I will chronicle now, he said to me, Farrakhan, I didn't have a childhood. I would have liked to have sleepovers and pillow fights and all the things that children did. But I was performing since I was 5 years old. That's why Michael found so much joy with the young lady, Brooke Shields. And when he met with Shirley Temple Black, they both sat down and cried together because Shirley Temple Black was a childhood star that I remember when I was a little boy. And they, when you're gifted like that, you don't have a childhood because somebody's pushing you. And through pushing the gifted ones, the parents and others can become wealthy. I told Michael, I said, Michael, in the world of wisdom, we don't have time for foolishness. In the world of wisdom, you plan for your baby when you know you have conceived. And even before that, when you get down on your knees, mother, black, brown, red, yellow, or white, when you know you are expecting, then the person that wants to make a great child, they go down on their knees and they vow what is in their womb to God. Somebody told Michael he was ugly. Somebody told my brother he wasn't good looking. Somebody told you the same thing. So you begin to hate the way God made you, but you don't have no money to fix it. So, as Brother Michael began to get a little money, he began to try and fix things. Well, I read something. He had about 6 nose jobs. He had Oh, a lot of stuff done. He had money, and he was working on himself. I had a conversation with brother. He said to me, he said, "Minister, they always made us see black people as ugly people in the jungles of Africa." Listen to his words to me. He said, "But then I began to study, and I saw that some of these great Egyptian pharaohs, they were beautiful people." He said, "And so I went," he said, "to my friend Spielberg and David Geffen and others, and I asked them, would they help me to produce a movie on the lives of Africans to show black people how really beautiful we are and were." He said they turned him down, and he said he decided he would do it himself. It was Hollywood whose first movie. What was the first movie? The Birth of a Nation. How did it portray us? And how has Hollywood portrayed us? And who were the Hollywood moguls that portrayed us like that? Am I anti-Semitic, or are they anti-black? They know our history, and they wanted to keep our history from us so that we would never be inspired to rise above what they had portrayed us as. I didn't write no book called Little Black Sambo. Somebody wrote it for me to read. I'm not anti-Semitic, but they were anti-black. As Michael grew, he began to change. He fixed his nose, he fixed his chin, he took some of the fat out of his jaws, and later on, he contacted this skin disease called vitiligo. They say it first appeared on his hand, and that's why he started wearing the glove. But as you know, vitiligo, it takes away your pigment. And you'll have one part of you very light, almost like an albino, and the other part is natural. Michael, being before the public, he didn't want to be spotted, so he went to dermatologist who sped up the process. So Michael went from black at 10 years old to white in his 40s. They say when he died, his body was chalk white. He was bald from the burn in his hair, so he wore a wig. And they say that the pain that he suffered from that burn is what started him on the pain medication. When Michael had Johnny Cochran as his attorney, I was in Los Angeles, staying at the home of the health guru, Dr. Torrey. And Johnny Cochran called me. And he said, I need you to talk to Michael. He's really going through something. Well, I didn't know what Michael was going through. This was my first conversation with Michael. It was in the 80s. And when I talked to Brother Michael, he was in deep depression. And I said, Michael, out of our pain came our creative genius. I said, if it were not for the pain of slavery, we wouldn't have spirituals, nor would we have blues or gospel. All of it came from our pain. That great gospel song that Martin Luther King wanted to hear the night before he was killed, Precious Lord, Take My Hand, was written by a Chicago brother who had just lost his wife. And in losing his wife, he went into the room, and his pain brought out that magnificent song. I said, let your pain, Michael, serve your creative genius. That's all I said. After that, Michael came out with the album called History. Now listen, this is serious. Because I didn't know what was giving him pain or who. But when he made that history, he starts talking about the pains. History. How many victims must there be slaughtered in vain across the land? And how many struggles must there be before we choose to live the prophet's plan? Every day, create your history. Every path you take, you're leaving your legacy. Every soldier dies in his glory. Every legend tells of conquest and liberty. Don't let no one get you down. Keep moving on higher ground. Keep flying until you're the king of the hill. No force of nature can break your will to self-motivate. She say this face that you see is destined for history. Then he wrote, they don't care about us. They don't care about us. They who? See, he's sending his people messages out of his pain. They don't care. And some of you are dumb enough to think because we have a black president that they now care. If it does not get better for the least of us, then somebody still doesn't care about us. Skinhead, deadhead. Everybody gone mad. Situation, aggravation. Everybody allegation. In the suite, on the news. Everybody dog food. Bang, bang, shot dead. Everybody's gone mad. All I want to say is that they don't really care about us. Beat me, hate me, you can never break me, will me, thrill me, you can never kill me, Jew me, sue me, everybody do me, kick me, kite me, don't you black or white me. That's what Michael was talking about. They made him go back in the studio and change those words. And Michael was labeled anti-Semitic. Tell me what has become of my life. I have a wife and 2 children who love me. I am the victim of police brutality. Now I'm tired of being the victim of hate. You're raping me of my pride. Oh, for God's sake, I look to heaven to fulfill its prophecy and set me free. Skinhead, deadhead, everybody gone bad. Trepidation, speculation, everybody allegation. In the suite, on the news, everybody dog food, black man, blackmail, throw your brother in jail. All I want to say is that they don't really care about us. Tell me, what has become of my rights? Am I invisible because you ignore me? Your proclamation promised me liberty. Now I'm tired of being the victim of shame. They're throwing me in a class. I have a wife and 2 children who love me. I am the victim of police brutality. Now I'm tired of being the victim of hate. You're raping me of my pride. Oh, for God's sake, I look to heaven to fulfill its prophecy and set me free. Skinhead, deadhead, everybody gone bad. Trepidation, speculation, everybody allegation. In the suite, on the news, everybody dog food, black man, blackmail, throw your brother in jail. All I want to say is that they don't really care about us. Tell me, what has become of my rights? Am I invisible because you ignore me? Your proclamation promised me liberty. Now I'm tired of being the victim of shame. They're throwing me in a class with a bad name. I can't believe this is the land from which I came. You know, I really do hate to say it. The government don't want to see. But if Roosevelt was living, he wouldn't let this be. No, no. Skinhead, deadhead, everybody gone bad. Situation, speculation, everybody litigation. Beat me, bash me, but you can never trash me. Hit me, kick me, you can never get me. All I want to say is, they don't really care. What you don't know is when one of us becomes famous, they watch us closely. Do you remember Different Strokes? Do you remember the little brother called Todd Bridges? I was in the home of Jim Brown, probably one of the greatest football players that ever played the game, and Todd Bridges was there. And he came to me and said, Farrakhan, I was going to change my name to an African name. And the FBI came and visited me. and warned me that I should not do that or else. Why is his desire to change his name a problem for the U.S. government? It's because all of you wear the names of your former slave masters. And as long as you're in the name of your former slave master, you are not yet free. You got to get out of his name and come into the name of God, which you rightly deserve. Michael then was on his way to the cross because Michael had touched the hearts of people all over the world. Michael touched the hearts of every race, every culture, every ethnic group, every tribe. There was nothing that Michael hadn't touched, and now he's becoming dangerous. Dangerous. Didn't he write some song called Dangerous? He was telling us he had become dangerous. Dangerous to who? To those who want to keep you ignorant of who you are so they can continue to use us as tools and slaves. It's not about hate. This is not about anti-Semitism. It's about showing who is anti-black. I didn't know what was in Michael's heart, but I told Michael, don't be angry with your father, because even though you didn't have pillow fights and sleepovers, those that had pillow fights and sleepovers and had a childhood, they're the ones that's buying your records, and they're the ones that's coming to see you. You had a purpose for your life. You didn't know that Michael was a lecturer. I was surprised when I read Michael's lecture at Oxford University in England. See, Michael was much more than a man of song and dance. Michael was a heart that beat for the love of humanity. This is part of Michael Jackson's speech at Oxford. It's titled, "Heal the Kids." It gives a view of MJ's philosophy and worldview better than any other source. And this is what Michael said at Oxford. Love, ladies and gentlemen, is the human family's most precious legacy, its richest bequest, its golden inheritance. And it is a treasure that is handed down from one generation to another. Previous ages may not have had the wealth we enjoy. Their houses may have lacked electricity and they squeezed their many children into small homes without central heating. But those homes had no darkness, nor were they cold. They were lit bright with the glow of love, and they were warmed snugly by the very heat of the human heart. Parents, undistracted by the lust for luxury and status, accorded their children primacy in their lives. On the world condition, this is what Brother said. Friends, let me paint a picture for you. Here's a typical day in America. 6 youths under the age of 20 will commit suicide. 12 children under the age of 20 will die from firearms. Remember, this is a day, not a year. 399 children will be arrested for drug abuse. 1,352 babies will be born to teen mothers. This is happening in one of the richest, most developed countries in the history of the world. Here is Michael's goals. He said, our goal is simple: to recreate the parent-child bond, to renew its promise and light the way forward for all the beautiful children who are destined one day to walk this earth. They say that parenting is like dancing. You take one step, your child takes another. I have discovered that getting parents to rededicate themselves to their children is only half the story. The other half is preparing the children to re-accept their parents. Then he started talking about his father. He said he was talking about his father's father. He showed very little affection toward his family and raised my father and his siblings with an iron fist. Who could have imagined what it was like to grow up a poor black man in the South, robbed of dignity, bereft of hope, struggling to become a man in a world that saw my father as subordinate? I was the first black artist to be played on MTV, and I remember how big a deal it was even then, and that was in the 80s. My father moved to Indiana and had a large family of his own, working long hours in the steel mills, work that kills the lungs and humbles the spirit, all to support his family. Is it any wonder that he found it difficult to expose his feelings? Is it any mystery that he hardened his heart, that he raised the emotional ramparts? And most of all, is it any wonder why he pushed his sons so hard to succeed as performers so that they could be saved from what he knew to be a life of indignity and poverty? I have begun to see that even my father's harshness was a kind of love, an imperfect love, be sure, but it was love nonetheless. He pushed me because he loved me, because he wanted no man to ever look down on his offspring. And now, with time, rather than bitterness, I feel blessing. In the place of anger, I have found absolution. And in the place of revenge, I have found reconciliation. And my initial fury has slowly given way to forgiveness. And that's what I'm asking all of us to do tonight. Live up to the 5th of the 10 Commandments. Honor your parents by not judging them. Give them the benefit of the doubt. That is why I want to forgive my father and to stop judging him. I want to forgive my father because I want a father, and this is the only one that I've got. I want the weight of my past lifted from my shoulders, and I want to be free to step into a new relationship with my father for the rest of my life, unhindered by the goblins of the past. In a world filled with hate, we must still dare to hope. In a world filled with anger, we must still dare to comfort. In a world filled with despair, we must still dare to dream. And in a world filled with distrust, we must still dare to believe. Michael Jackson. I'm almost finished. Can you be patient with me a little bit? I love this brother. And I feel a deep sense of personal loss. We had a quiet relationship. And he would call me on New Year's Day to wish me well and send me a big bouquet of fruit in a huge bowl. And when we would close, I would say, "I love you, Michael." He said, "I love you more." And Michael wanted to fight the powers that were controlling him and trying to steal his legacy. Michael was a wise young man. When he bought for $35 million, I think it was, the master recordings of his own music and half of a 750,000 song catalog that includes music by the Beatles, Elvis Presley, Bob Dylan, the Staple Singers, Neil Diamond, and the Jonas Brothers. That means anytime they play any of those songs, he gets paid. That catalog that he had is worth more than $1 billion. And naturally, see, what you don't understand about the enemy, when they fear you, the first thing they must do is destroy your reputation, then destroy your wealth. And if you're still alive, we can have him then. Because he's no more, has no more money. He's a broken man. You can have him now. Look, Michael owned Little Richard's catalog. And according to our great brother, Dick Gregory, he said when Michael brought the rights to Little Richard, the architect of rock and roll, Michael returned to Little Richard the rights to his music free of charge. Now, I would like to tell you about Michael Jackson's money. See, knowing something about him just before he died, his final concert tour called This Is It. If you watch the short video of his talk and then what he was singing, Michael said this is it. This was to be the end for him as a performer. Michael has written over 200 songs that have never been recorded. Michael, I watched him, you know, and the wise of the enemy, they watch him too. Michael said, this is it. I don't know what that means to you. But I know what it meant to me. And the enemy watching knows what it meant too. When he raised his fist, see what you don't know, Michael is a warrior. And when he raised his fist, he was telling all the would-be's and the wannabe, my crown is like Michael Jordan's jersey. Nobody can wear my number when I finish. You hang it up. You put my crown on the shelf because it's the unreachable star. It's the unattainable goal. But I'm going to show the world that I am Michael Jackson and I'm fighting for my legacy. This is it. And then when you watched him on the stage, see, he's in a militant. Look like an FOI, you know. Relief. He will not sell one more record. The recorded conversation was a critical aspect of Jackson's defense against the upcoming allegation made against him. He and his supporters argue that he was the victim of a jealous father whose only goal was to extort money from the singer. Now, what you gonna do to Michael? You're gonna strip him. You're gonna destroy him. You're gonna make sure that he'll never sell another record. You're gonna destroy his career. This isn't just me, the father, talking. It's a conspiracy. This is the crucifixion. You saw Michael's color going from black to white. That's the outside journey. But the inside journey, Michael was going from white to black. Now watch. Michael started helping Africa. He met with Nelson Mandela. He gave lots of money to African charities. He wanted to build on the African continent. Danger. Danger. Michael supported 39 charities, donated millions of dollars to important causes through his foundation. Now, whether you know it or not, these are his achievements. The Millennium issue of the Guinness Book of Records names Michael as the pop star who supports the most charity organizations. It is estimated that Michael has given over $300 million to charity. His many charitable acts includes multiple visits to hospitals, orphanages, terminally ill children. He paid for funerals of underprivileged and victims of disasters, brought thousands to visit Neverland free, paying for a liver transplant. He gave to childhood diabetes research, mother-to-child HIV transmission in Africa, drug abuse, immunization, leukemia, cancer research, hemophilia, AIDS, juvenile diabetes. This man donated to the Michael Jackson Burn Center, the Heal the World Foundation, and I could name all of the groups that Michael supported. And when we were doing the Million Man March, I met with Brother Michael in a hotel suite in New York, and I said, Brother Michael, it's one thing if 1 million women and girls cheer for you, but when 1 million men cheer you, that's significant. I said, Michael, what I would like for you to do is to come to the Million Man March and sing the song, I'm looking at the man in the mirror. Michael was all for it. But after we left, somebody persuaded him differently. But Michael gave $100,000 to the Million Man March. Michael Jackson, in his fight against the record companies, I met with him in Florida, and he and I had a private dinner, and I told him that I was going to the National Press Club and that I was going to talk to the world about the neoconservatives, most of whom are Zionists, and their program for a new American century, where they were advising the government, and Bush in particular, and the policies that were made during the Bush administration were all out of this project for a new American century by the neoconservatives. I said, Michael, I'm going to step out and call attention to this to the world. He said, you would do that, Minister? I said, yes. I said, I'm doing it because I want you to see that if you stand up in the name of God, you will be the winner. I want you to see that when I step up and call them out, I'll be around. And I'm around. And I'm around. And I'm alive. And I'm getting stronger by the day. God has kept me alive because there's more work for me to do. I won't tell you the rest. But I got a call, I think 7 days before he passed away. It was from a lawyer whose name I won't call, who said, Farrakhan, please get in touch with Michael. He's in serious trouble. I said, what do you mean? He said, Michael agreed to do 10 concerts. Now they've booked him for 50. And we're afraid that he won't be able to fulfill the obligation. And he will be sued, and this will be a way for them to take his legacy, the catalog that he owns. I said, well, what do you want me to do? He hasn't called me. He said, but there are people close to him that are followers. I said, really? He said, yes. I said, well, give me a few days. Let me think about it. I went to Africa. And the first day that I arrived in Africa, we were sitting at the table having dinner. And a text message came to Rock Newman that Michael had had cardiac arrest. I hit the table and I said, my brother is gone. 15 minutes later, we got another text message saying that Michael Jackson was dead. I was invited to his memorial.
Michael Jackson belonged to black people, and that black people understood Michael Jackson in a way that maybe whites didn't. And the studies show it. Pew poll shows that 8 out of 10 African Americans were following this closely. There are other polls that showed 2 out of 3 African Americans were following this very closely. How do you respond to that?
Well, black people understand me. And you can ask most black people that have ever heard me, know something about me. They understand me. They don't view me as the media has portrayed me. And whenever you become strong, whenever your truth will undermine the falsehoods that the society seems to be built upon, you become a threat. So when you become a threat to the powers that be, they use the power of the media first to demagnetize you by making you appear as what you are not. And after they take you away from the magnetic appeal that you have with the people, then you are either assassinated or you're made poor and raggedy. So when you get back to your people, you have no drawing power and you have no money. So to strip Michael of his legacy, to strip him of the catalog of the Beatles and Elvis, to strip him of the great financial strength that he potentially has, is to give him back to us in his move toward self-awareness, self-love. He always loved humanity. The problem was he did not have that love so much of himself, but he was growing to see the beauty of himself.
You said he didn't have that love of himself. Talk to me more about that.
In this way, most black people, not only here, but in the Caribbean, in South America, Central America, in Africa, we have been the victims of the tyranny of white supremacy and black inferiority. So we're ashamed of the flatness of our nose, the thickness of our lips, the kinkiness of our hair. So all of the pictures that I saw on CNN while I was in Africa, they showed Michael as a 9-year-old or 10-year-old in his black color, his thick lips, his nose, his hair. And then they showed this gradual progression of Michael. And the message, you don't have to say it, the message was that when he was young, somebody told him he wasn't beautiful, and he wanted, when you have money, like most rich people in Hollywood or entertainers, movie actresses, business people who don't like their nose or their lips or their breasts or their behind or whatever they want to improve on, money makes them able to do that. So he was improving in his mind on himself by changing his nose, his lips. But the journey, that's the journey outward.
But are you saying that he didn't want to be black, that he wanted to be white or look white?
Well, the evidence is there. That's the evidence of the outward journey. But the inward journey, that's the most beautiful journey of all. He was journeying toward himself, and he's journeying toward the unification of all human beings with mutual respect. So when he made that song, it doesn't matter if you're black or white, because the outside lost its meaning. The real meaning is not the color of your skin, it's the spirit that energizes you and moves you to action. That's the real person. And that's why Jesus said, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he.
What was your relationship to the Jackson family? Michael Jackson, Jermaine Jackson.
Well, I don't know the Jackson family as well as my children. My children grew up with the Jackson family. My children adored the Jackson family. They were my son, Mustafa, my son, Joshua, my daughter. They were involved in many ways with the Jacksons. I met Michael several years ago, and I loved him long before I met him. But after meeting him, such a gentle spirit, such a beautiful human being. Yes, the tragedy is how Michael was portrayed. And I must respectfully say to the media, you as a media person, Mr. King as a media person, all of the people that are in media, if the sins of any of those who are before the world were exposed, you would lose your magnetism. My mother said, you don't have to lie about anybody, because the truth about everybody is bad enough. Nobody comes this way without sin. Nobody comes this way without fault. But the flesh, this, argues against the spirit, and the flesh oftentimes wins. But when death comes, the flesh and the veil that the flesh uses to hide the spirit is buried. Mozart had a terrific life. Beethoven, Nat King Cole, you name it. All of us have problems. But when death comes, it puts a period to our life. The flesh goes back to the earth, but that essence that caused us to transcend time is what lives. Michael lives.
Michael Jackson's children, young. You heard his daughter Paris at the memorial service speak out about her father. What would you say to them? Any advice?
God, I thought her words were so touching. Because in the little that she said, and the way she said it, and the way the family formed around her and around each other, told such a beautiful story. Because now we can see the humanity of Michael. He loved his children. He was a wonderful father. And then to see all of the family unite in a bond of love. Isn't that what we want to see?
Peace forever and always. Welcome to another edition of the Realities Temple on Earth. Your host is His Divine Masculine Brother AdMinister Taalik Ibn'rad,